Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be your friendly neighborhood Zax Pearson this evening, and today I'm joined by my PSO2 constituents, a word I never get to say enough, Phoenix, and of course, Romulus. Romulus, hailing from California, but currently being presided on the base that he's at in the military life over in Texas, has been playing for a few years. I got him into it. Whereas I've been playing Phantasy Star and Phantasy Star related things since 1998. Yes, I'm an OG motherfucker. I even know and have seen the original Sega Genesis series. No, I didn't beat them all. I was way, way too young to even comprehend an RPG at the time. And of course, I'm also joined by the one from across the sea, the one British to rule them all, Phoenix. So, Phoenix, did you start with PSO 1 or you just started with 2?
I've played Phantasy Star 1 when I was quite young. It's one of my childhood games.
Same here. Same here. All right. Half veterans, half new people.
I never get the opportunity to play online, however. But I also remember playing Phantasy Star Universe. And I also played some of the Sega Genesis games as well.
So you play more than most people on the servers have. Yeah, I actually got to play PSU online. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, it sucked for the first 2 months. It was god awful terrible. You were better off playing in the infinite offline mode, or extra mode as they called it for some reason. But after that 2 month strat, it got pretty fun. But you know, it's Sega. They don't like paying for a lot of internet things over in America, so it had to come to an end. But it was a fun ride while it lasted. Made some good friends and some good memories. Okay, so yeah, let's just get into the real reason why we're here. We'll be comparing and contrasting all the three advanced classes. Etoile, as most of you may know, is not actually out yet at the time of this recording, but we feel like it needs to be mentioned because we did say we're going to talk about all the advanced classes within Phantasy Star Online. Now, for those of you who are new or looking at this as a possible way to get you into it, the advanced classes, which are few and far between, are Hero, Phantom, best name ever, and Etoile. Also, no, I do not know the proper way to say Etoile. My dad's dead, so I don't really know that many people, and I'm not around that many people who are fluent in French. I'm just going off of what I think. And if memory serves, I think it means star or twinkle or something in English anyway. Actually, hey Romulus, when you get a chance, Google what Etoile means in English. I know it's a French word. That aside, okay, I'm just going to give you guys a general breakdown of what we're going to do. And by you guys, I mean you people listening, if people even listen. I'm really just doing this because I want to test out my new equipment. And also, I want to talk about PSO before it gets popular again. All right, so besides telling you, we're not going to tell you what class is the best class, okay? Because half of that is your actual input and likes and interests within the game and the class system in the game. And the other half is someone just finding a very, very powerful attack and figuring out how to buff it up to where you can kill things really quick. AKA meta. Most effective technique and or tactic available. It's something that gamers do damn near unconsciously or subconsciously. No matter how good we are in a game, if we get the strongest weapon and the strongest weapon outpowers everything we have, we're almost never going to go back to the other weapons unless they're really, really cool. Of course, that's a little bit, less common in other types of games, but it's a well-known thing that we've been doing. That doesn't apply in Phantasy Star, however, because there are so many modifications and variables that can be handled just from your stats, let alone weapon special abilities. But hey, if we talked about that, we'd be here all millennium. All right, first off, we're going to start with Hero. I'm going to give you a small description with Hero. Then I'm going to go through my feelings on Hero, and then we're going to let Phoenix, followed by Romulus, go and talk about it too. First and foremost, Hero is a class that utilizes long range and close range techniques. And I don't mean techniques as in magic attacks, which I really wish they wouldn't call them techniques because it confuses the hell out of a lot of people. But from this point forward, I will be referring to them as magic. It utilizes one big old cloud-sized sword and twin machine guns, as well as throwing small talismans. And it can also produce magic with those talismans, teleport, or it can just use magic inherently by itself without the aid of a weapon. So literally, if you want it, you can go and play this game without ever truly equipping a weapon. I wouldn't recommend it though. Or at least play that class without a weapon. Again, wouldn't recommend it though. Anyways, now when it comes to hero, the first thing I want to say as far as one of the major benefits is the fact that your ability to not only block and dodge, or I guess parry and dodge, is not only second to either Forces or Phantom, which I'll describe and get into later, but also it's the fact that you get the damage multiplier / damage buff that comes along with it. Unlike most games, when you dodge an attack, it's up on you as an individual to be able to hit the enemy back, especially with fighting games. And if you're lucky, you'll be rewarded. In the case of hero, it's a little bit different. See, when you dodge something, you gain the ability to do a special technique or a special super move, or as we like to call them, photon art, depending on if you have the twin machine gun equipped. And it almost guarantees you're going to hit the enemy because most enemies, unless they teleport instantly, are going to be caught up in whatever you use. It's not a frame trap per se. The enemy can freely move. It's just that most of them can't get away fast enough. Now, in the case of the hero sword, what happens is you swing your sword with an energy aura that makes the attack range and width almost 2 to 3 times what it normally is. And it even has a hitbox above the character, which is crazy to think about. Twin machine guns, as I mentioned, you shoot your gun directly at whatever you're targeting on screen or soft lock on status. However, if you hit the brand new star photon art button, you'll release a souped up version of it. And of course, like I said, damage multipliers automatically kick in. There's no limit on how many times you can do this as well, except for brand new star, which requires photon points, or basically the equivalent of a mana gauge. And other than that, its dodging ability is practically, I won't say garbage, but garbage adjacent. The older class that is somewhat involved with hero, called Hunter, they share some of the similar techniques and sword weapon. Hunter has a dodge that is basically barely even a full 1.5 second. So utilizing it is not so much next to impossible, but it rendered practically useless. So most people stick with just blocking something that's going to hit your hero class. Hit your Hunter class. And in the case of hero, since you have certain techniques that introduce super armor or wall parry, as was the original nickname for it, people have begun using those instead. For instance, its name escapes me, but there's about one technique on every weapon that the character uses that has super armor, with the exception of the talisman. But in the case of the sword, which is widely considered to be the best weapon on hero, it actually has 2 to 3 moves with a super armor ability on it. Now, the special action, which all the advanced class has, the one for hero, is basically shooting ki blasts out of your hand. However, if you shoot the giant charge shot, you get a giant blue wall, which is basically the equivalent of super armor temporarily kick in. And not only do you not get knocked back, you either take no damage or dramatically reduced damage. I'm talking like upwards of 80% reduction. However, that same barrier kicks in of super armor for your sword attack where you swing it in a circle, which again, name escapes me. But hey, to be fair, these classes only got 4 techniques a pop, or 5. So you'll find it, I promise. Now, once you release this after it's been charged up, that super armor also kicks in. But it also removes blowback properties. Blowback is very, very special because it exists in a lot of games, but it's not specifically dealt with when in case of MMOs, unless you're in PSO2. See, blowback has degrees or a ranking system, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You get blown back by a technique or a physical attack that pushes your character down to the ground or in the air, followed by hitting the ground. Well, super armor moves remove the effects of blowback on you. So the benefits of mastering these techniques is crucial if you're going to be a good hero. It's a little bit technical, yes, but realistically, we have giant monsters that shoot energy beams, so a lot of the enemies are going to telegraph what they're doing, making it easier than normal in a lot of other games to be able to dodge certain things. And that's just the sword. Now, when it comes to the long range stuff, such as the magic and the T-guns, I'm going to talk about the twin machine guns first. For lack of a better term, the twin machine guns are one of the most honest weapons that the hero has, and really, when the hero gets them, one of the most honest weapons in the game. You hold down the fire button, it fires bullets. Big, 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 chunky energy bullets. Yes, I know I'm not saying that right. I can say bullets. It's just funnier that way. But most of its techniques involve the player either hitting them from mid-range or close range, because far range, the bullets or the bullet techniques move slower, but also less chance of being able to directly hit your enemy. Even with the targeting lock on, once the projectiles come out, they pretty much can go where they want to in the case of Brand New Star. Now, there is another move which is slightly weaker than Brand New Star and it has a chance of creating stun. But the problem with that is the low amount of damage output and the waste of meter. So no matter how much you play the game, you'll almost never find anybody even using the technique, let alone caring of its existence. Now, in the case of the magic, it's very, very unusual. See, most people who play the hero that I've met, they're not really what I would call a heavy utilizer of magic. Not to mention the talisman is one of the weakest magical weapons inherently in the game. Lowest amount of damage output. Its speciality is the fact that it can cast the magic at a distance with a special little drone that is basically the talisman card. So imagine throwing out a card and it stops in midair and then you use it to do magic instead of directly at point blank range out next to that card. Don't get me wrong, it's cool on paper, but the real utilization for that comes with its special maneuver abilities. When you use the talisman, you activate the magic form of the dodge. Now, the magic form of the dodge, besides being broken and possibly the best maneuvering mechanic in the game as far as getting away from things, what it happens with it is that your character's opacity is lowered by at least 80%, so you really only see a transparent silhouette. And for about 4 to 4.5 seconds, your character is invulnerable and you get a slight hover glide if you jump off something. So that means that techniques that would normally kill an entire field in the game, if you put that weapon on, or if you're a force or a techer, the other magic classes, you have one of the best chances of escaping that move. And I mean that, no matter how good you are as a player. Blocking reduces damage, but escaping it with force evade is completely outclassing it in every sense of the word. Also, if you want to do wide area damage with technical and striking, the talisman has just really two. Two of its main primary moves where you can get a homing lock-on system and you can lock on the various parts of the boss or enemy you're fighting, and those little spinning blades, for lack of a better term, will strike the enemy, I believe, 5 to 7 times before they fade away. Now, you can't control how they're thrown out. Once they come out, they just go to whatever they were supposed to be locked on to. In the case of the area effect one, which is where you send out a giant swinging blade from where you were standing, that one stays out of memory serves for about 15-ish seconds. Now, those 15 seconds, anything within that field is automatically going to take continuous damage. It's a beautiful sight. Sometimes you can just go in a mob, throw out those two moves, and then just stand back and just be contributing without even trying. It gives you time to heal up or buff up your homies. Now, the other two techniques, which are basically the same, you throw out a single dagger either directly in front of you on what you're targeting, or you throw out another one, which is pretty much the same thing, but once you throw it, you gain the ability to dodge and move in the air or on the ground in a limited amount of for a limited amount of space. I want to say about the equivalent of maybe 5 to 6 in-game feet, or 1.5 meters for you metric system folks out there. I know you play the game. I recognize you, even though I don't know what your system is. I don't hate centimeters, but I can never just mentally figure out the conversion instantly in my head from centimeters to inches. Anyways, now We've had enough of the good. Let's talk about some of the bad when it comes to Hero. The cons of Hero are somewhat inherent, only affected, only experienced by some of the older players who started the game before Hero existed. But for some people who started the game post Hero, they may never even have to experience it. One of the first things about Hero is that up until Phantom came out, Hero was basically a class by itself. Normally, you can have a primary class and a secondary class in a lot of MMOs, including PSO2. Hero said, nah, homie, I'll roll solo. So that means that anything that you could use as a natural stat boosting effect from all of your other classes that can all mix and match, even Phantom, the other advanced class, you can't get that with Hero. Hero is what I like to call a very honest style of playing. If you have a hero, you got it because you felt like you wanted to have a situation where you have a counter for everything the game can throw at you. If you're a close range class, you got a problem with aerial stuff and enemies who strike you from afar. If you a ranger class, a shooter, you got a problem with the opposite. And if you magic, hey, everybody want to beat your ass because you do damage way too good. But you're a glass cannon. A minimal effort glass cannon, but that's the nature of glass cannon or magic classes for the stereotypical MMO cliche. The magic users can deal damage, high damage easily, but they die easily. You know, it's a give and take system. Also, when it comes to mobs, as in, we'll say 15 enemies, projectiles, and a boss on screen all at once or more, Hero has a bit of an issue because the temptation to use your most powerful techniques, which are your dodge technique attacks, to build up your super gauge, which gives you a super attack. We didn't get into it, but it's kind of expected at this point. Everybody's got a super attack or a super meter on the classes. But you have to wrestle with, do you want to do damage from afar, jump in the fray and try to activate your dodge counter, which can do insane damage and possibly wipe out 3 or 4 enemies at a time, instead of trying to target one and any other enemy that may be around him. Aggro is different for everybody, folks, and it exists in PSO just like any other MMO. Or do you want to hang back and try to cast giant magic spells? You have to understand what you want to specialize in. A lot of people will say don't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to Hero or really just life in general, and they're not wrong. But the thing about Hero is that you have a lot of options, sometimes too many options based on your situation. So learning and getting good with one weapon first and your one set of techniques first may overall be better than switching your weapons every 5 seconds. However, and this is the kicker, inherently, Hero was not meant to be utilized and focused into one weapon type. In fact, every single weapon has one photon art or super move it can do, where if you hold down the input, you switch to one of the other weapons. So let's say I do my rush down attack with my twin machine guns because I want to switch to sword. I'll hold down the button, I'll switch to sword and do an attack. But then I'm done with that. So now I can go into my list again, do one of my moves that makes me switch into using Talisman, and you can do this indefinitely as long as you have meter for it. So the game wants you to diversify your portfolio, so to speak. But the problem with that is you may end up in a situation where you could do more damage, and I've seen this with some of the new people, and not even realize it because you're using your preferred weapon. Even if it's not the strongest. Or even if you don't seem to realize you're getting a damage reduction based on the enemies you're fighting, and they will keep going with that one weapon. People need to focus not on one weapon, they need to focus in an order. You got your favorite weapon? Okay, focus on getting that down. What abilities or how good do you want the elemental buff to be in the game for the weapon? You got that? Okay, now learn the other ones. But since Hero is how it is, it basically is inviting the equivalent of ADD for players. Oh, I'm going to fight this big slow boss? Okay, cool. Let me get my sword. Oh, another boss came in. Emergency code, duel, whatever it's called. This boss is fast in the air and he can teleport. Okay, let me get my machine guns. Oh, wait, no, the other boss isn't dead yet. Oh, now they both got infinite enemy spawns until I kill both of them. Oh, and they're really weak to my strongest magic attack. What do you do in that situation? Obviously, you destroy everything with the mercy of Satan, who has none. But you see the conundrum that a new player might go through, especially if your weapons are all 15 or 15 star adjacent, which at the time of this recording is the highest ranking. So, yeah, the biggest con about Hero, in my opinion, because all of this is opinion, unless stated otherwise, is simply that there are too many people who get the class, but they only want to utilize one weapon because their previous class had the strongest weapon that they used to carry. You know? And I'm not gonna lie, I'm speaking from experience. I was like that the whole entire first month and a half Hero came out. I had this 13 star sword because 13 stars were new, and I just used nothing but that. Did not care about my machine guns, even though I had a level 70 gunner, which is the class that initially uses the twin machine guns, because I knew it was very, very outdated and obsolete weapon. And I just hadn't had enough time to invest in upgrading it because, again, I was unlocking Hero, which used to be 3 times harder than it is right now. You had to get 3 different types of classes to, what was that, 70 or 75, something like that? Stupid. Other than that, as far as the skill tree goes when it comes to Hero, you almost can't screw it up. But don't get me wrong, and I'm not gonna have somebody use that against me as if I'm saying that's some type of in-game dogma. But if you use the automatic skill tree setting, there's gonna be some things in there you don't like, but it's not automatically gonna heavily invest into it. See, I'm one of those people who's got like 50 or 60 reset skill tree items. So I've seen what all the automatic trees do and look like. Hero is very unique because it has a lot of damage increasing and defense increase skills, but they're most percentage based instead of direct stat. So it's like the difference between, oh, I'm going to give you plus 10 extra attack power because you bought it off the skill tree versus, oh, I'm going to give you plus 10% damage increase off the skill tree. The way the tree is built up, they don't really stop to cater specifically to the weapons, which is good because then almost nothing on the skill tree would synergize. So which I think for a new player, especially because you're going to get a reset skill tree at least 5 to 6 a year. So don't ever think that you won't ever have to redo your skill tree or you won't ever have a reason to. So don't feel bad if you screw up your first time. But I'm going to tell you right now, don't focus on trying to specialize in the weapons themselves. Concentrate on the direct buffs that'll go to the actual class. The physical attack, the counter boosters, the defense boosters. Because here's the thing, those increase your survivability. If your enemy doesn't hit you as hard as you hit him, and you have more attack power than he does, that's a lot more important than, oh, hey, I got this photon point reduction or I got this gauge reduction on this one weapon. No. Trust me. As long as you play the class and unlock the special points that you need to enhance that class, you can naturally fill up almost all of the basic stat parameter boosters in that skill tree and still have at least close to 15 to 20 extra points in your skill tree slot to be able to mess around and experiment. And like I said, we're always getting skill resets. I reset my skills, don't get me wrong, but I've been in the game since the beta. So I've been here for over 6 years. I've got like 40 or 50 of them. So believe me when I tell you, I know and have seen how skill trees can get messed up or how automatic recommendations can also add things that are sometimes garbage. Now, as far as the type of person I think that this would go best for, as far as who could utilize it, I recommend Hero to people who, for lack of a better term, they don't have one particular weapon that they prefer over the other. They enjoy utilizing multiple weapons from multiple classes and have actually already spent some time upgrading them and whatnot. I wouldn't recommend Hero to the magic people. However, I do recognize that there are magician heroes out there, which I feels like should be a Yu-Gi-Oh card. I summon level 4 magician hero. I wonder if that is a card. I'm going to Google that later, but I digress. I recommend it for people who are from more traditional MMOs who have enjoyed roles like the tank, But instead of being a close range tank, you now have the option of being a far away tank or an up close and personal tank. But you have the better stat line when it comes to the defenses, including magic, which is usually the tank's weakest. Also, you can teleport with your talismans, and you have an invulnerable dodge with the talisman. You really can't go wrong for you tank lovers or you rush down fight game players with hero. You just have to remember, don't put all your eggs in one weapon basket, especially if you end up in a situation where you're not able to do a lot of damage just based on the type of enemy you're fighting. It will come back to bite you in the ass, especially when you're in level 90, near end of game level scenarios. Okay, Phoenix, am I missing anything? Did I cover everything?
That's a lot more information than I expected. But I do have been playing Hero before as well, but I haven't really gotten invested in this class. But I have been using 3 weapons in casual playstyle with ones that I'm not too serious about. But I have utilized 3 weapons. I like using Vapor Bullet and
Vapor Bullet. That's the one where you shoot them at point blank range, right?
You move and shoot enemies.
Okay.
I like using that. That's another. For twin machine guns, it's for when I can't easily hit enemies with my sword with a counter attack, but I can with the countered brand new star. I like using that. Plus, brand new star with from a counter gives you invulnerability for the duration of that attack, but only after you evaded an enemy attack. I like using that to bypass the enemy's flurry of attacks. Talus, I also use that in the air when as a vantage point, because being on the ground I am more susceptible to enemy attacks, but in the air I can maintain that quite easily, as well as I like using the Razor Edge a lot, and Dive Bullet, which also has invincibilities during its use. I like using that.
How did you spec out your skill tree from what you can remember?
I think I spec'd it out. One moment. I know I've got all the hero weapon bonus, the gear and gear bonuses. I haven't really gone for Talus skills. I've gone for mostly the sword skills. That's my main method of attack. I haven't really. I'm not sure if I put any points in PB save, but I have at least invested 1 point in twin machine gun. But that's all I needed.
I mean, we're on PC. If you want it, you can probably pull it up in real time. I'm gonna get started and pull up my Phantom skill tree in real time too, because I can never remember the name of anything on that tree.
But generally, hero. I like using hero, but it's not my main way of playing. Shall I hand it over to Varilus now?
Yeah, but I am curious. What is your favorite class to play? I've been curious about that.
I play Tekka 95% of the time, even in solo content. I play Tekka.
Interesting. We're gonna come back to that when we talk about Phantom. Hey, Romulus, go ahead.
Alright, so I could really talk more on Phantom because that's the one I've played the most and have the most familiarity with. So for Phantom, I enjoyed the fact that it gives you a small dose of invulnerability when charging your photon arts, which really helps being low health and just healing and getting right back into it. Also, the dodging ability works different from the hero from what I remember because of like you dodge with Phantom at the right time, you can get bonus stacks and get ready to really dish out somebody way on top of them.
Yeah, Phantom has a homing counterattack, and Hero has a more direct one. And focus on Hero for right now, though. We'll do the direct comparison at the end.
Alright, so for Hero, what I do remember about it was a lot more easier to get into because, as you said, this shit is just basic, like, very fair, and this, like, this attack does this and that attack does that. Also, it helps out with, like, the spamming of the old Gunner class as they get that class up to level 75 before I could do any of them. And with the Hero class, they have a fun reload feature. If you manage to do, I don't remember what the shift, if you do the shift function at the right time, you can reload all your bullets immediately.
It's called
stop and reload that, but that isn't like too bad.
Yeah, that's one of the cons.
Down like the X button and just like, hey, I'm shooting forever now. You can't stop me.
Yeah, that's one of the cons I forgot to mention. The twin machine guns don't regenerate their ammunition, so you have to actually hold it down. Even if you're using special attacks, you basically have to sit there and manually regenerate your own stuff. So that can actually slow down the gameplay if you're using that particular class twin machine gun. And it's only on Hero. It's like one of the biggest weaknesses.
Another thing, because I am the new guy and I've only played since after Heroes development, it was an off-putting class as compared to everything else because I didn't really figure out the whole everything through tutorial because you make it look like teleporting is easy while I'm like filming around trying to figure out how to move and play through that, but it's not too hard. Also, you're also another I say con is you're not ready for the class switch. You're gonna be set in the off-putting class. Like if you wanted to go gunner to sword, but you went gunner to Taliesin, it's like, well, great. I didn't want this setup. I gotta redo everything again. So any one misinput could really set you off for what you want to do. But it also has mad damage output as compared to just what the braver original Talisman and the Gunner could do. Because I did not braver, Hunter. Because I did Hunter for the first time I played the game. Then I switched over to Bouncer. Whenever I played with somebody with Hero, they would just like outmax my damage output. And I even had Vento Gale, which is like the strongest Bouncer move, especially with max photon gauge, and he still doubled my damage output. So this class just really helps you power through things once you get there.
Okay. Now, what type of player would you recommend Hero to?
I recommend Hero to a person who likes to do burst damage off rip and like is more of a glass cannon because all of your skills are really set up to be able to go in front of the team and like off enemies in front of you or at least do a good chunk of damage to the boss before anything can happen. Then you can reel back, reload your weapons, recharge your photon gauge, and go right back in it again. Because that is the best class for maneuverability and damage output.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess now we can get into Phantom. Also, I pulled up my skill tree in real time, so I'm gonna set up my screen to do a dual display real quick. Hey, can y'all hear me? Nope. Can y'all hear me now? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
I can.
All right. So, let me just go into my brief description of what Phantom is, besides coolest name ever. Phantom inherently is a class that values long range damage as well as continuous damage. However, as we all know, these classes are meant to be hybridized, so they're meant to be good in all three situations: long range, magical, and close range situation. For close range, it utilizes the katana and its rod, technically, which can also be utilized for magic. But in the case of Phantom, it has physical striking techniques that go along with the rod, which is inherently normally for magic attacks. And of course, it has the assault rifle. Not dual, just one assault rifle. Now, besides having better natural dodging mechanics and also a better counterattack, Phantom's special ability, or at least a shift ability, in some cases literally because you can map it to the shift button, shift ability does not allow you to switch weapons, but it allows you to utilize a drone which is shaped like a pyramid and is somewhat blue and transparent to make various techniques or extend the damage of your own techniques, or also just hit enemies without you using up your own photon art meter. Also, unlike Hero, it does have a shift weapon action, but instead of it shifting the weapon, it'll change your combo or your photon art move completely. For instance, I can do a move where I throw out my mine or my little drone, and if I let go of the button, it stops and detonates in wherever it stopped at on screen. But if I were to press the shift action button, then utilize this same technique, I will run you down with the fires of hell as if my name was Ghost Rider. And if I release the button, I do a spinning slide on the ground and I shoot you from the front and back with two giant energy bullets. They move slow, but they hurt good, for example. But every single technique is like that. So instead of having 4 photon arts per weapon, which is 12 total, it's actually 24 in the case of Phantom. And I think that's going to be a thing going forward with more, with more of the advanced classes. They're all going to have a special function, weapon function, or transformation that only that class can do. Personally, I think Hero needs more photon arts. They don't need to really have a lot of damage, but they just need more maneuverability and also different striking ranges. And we'd be here all day talking about theoretical super moves. That shit used to be fun back in grade school. Anyways, Phantom also has a unique dodge, besides being almost 2 to 3 times the length of the Hunter and the Hero's natural dodge, because they apparently acknowledge it the worst way possible, that, man, these dodges suck. It can also activate a counter attack. However, unlike Hero, the counter attack, dodge shot, I like to call it, can be stored and stacked. Now, stacking them does not change the damage, unfortunately, but it allows them to be held. Your character can jump, and your character can still dodge and move around, but the minute you press the normal attack button or the special move button, it will release those homing bullets as well as your photon art, and it'll hit whatever you targeted or the closest enemy to them. And they will chase down the enemy to the ends of the earth, also as if their name was Ghost Rider. Yeah, there's a lot of homing stuff going on with Phantom, so it becomes very fun and easy to use. But I digress. Now, I'm just going to the weaponry real quick. When it comes to Phantom, the weaponry is pretty, for lack of a better term, speedy. It has a lot of continuous damage. It won't necessarily be big damage, but you're almost always able to hit your enemy. even though you won't necessarily always be able to have something laying around on screen like Hero does. We're going to start in order. First off, with the close range aspect, it's the katana. Unlike the braver katana, not only do you hit faster, but your techniques are more acrobatic in nature. And unlike any other class ever before this point, the Phantom class can string together all of its normal attacks with the photon arts in any order indefinitely as long as you have meter. For example, let's say you do 2 photon art techniques and you have a 3-hit combo with the katana weapon. Now you've done 2 photon arts. That third hit you do is now going to be the final strike from your normal hit attack combo. It also works in air. Or I could do a regular normal attack and do a photon art in the middle. And if I hit the normal attack button again, boom, I'm going to do that final attack, which does the most damage for the hit string that comes with pressing the normal attack button with the katana. It also works for every other weapon that the Phantom uses, and they're the only class like that. And I don't know why. That seems like that should be a universal ability in my opinion. Plus, it looks cool. However, the weapon itself has a very particular unique function, as well as the class. See, when you accrue damage, for lack of a better term, on an enemy after a certain amount of hits or types of hits based on what you have your skill tree, you have a chance of increasing the tag or the long distance proximity mine, as I like to call it. Now what this does is this creates a special blue icon on your enemy, and the icon gains more effects until it turns like a reddish purple, or at least on my screen it's reddish pink purple, in which case it reaches maximum size. And when you hold down the shift weapon button, and you strike any enemy that has that reticle, it gets a explosive damage technique. Now this isn't the most damaging thing you can do as a Phantom, but you know, depending on the enemy and the weapon and how much modifiers you have from your skill tree, hey, you can easily hit into the high 5-figure or low 6 figures with natural damage, even on late game bosses. You know, it's not a super move or super meter based technique, but it is what it is. And it's worth it half the time. The only drawback to it is it can only be targeted or applied to one enemy at a time. So you can't have a whole mob with this one detonation tag on. Although I feel like they may change that in the future. That aside, other than that, the katana, which uses that function to speed slash the enemy, also has its own super meter. Now, Phantom's super meter is a little bit unique in the fact that it's not broken, but it's damn near possibly one of the best super mechanics in the whole game. And you can activate this like as early as level 1 with the class. Okay, so Phantom's super move creates status effects as well. So I'm gonna just go down the list. Besides creating a special move based on what of the Phantom's weapons you have on, once you do that, if you just let the meter burn out, you get a 80%, I believe, reduction in the cost to perform a photon art, and you are temporarily invulnerable, as in no damage. Or you could burn it up all at once and do that super move, which from what I can tell usually does about 5 times your normal attack damage. Don't quote me on that. I don't know the exact statistics to it, and I don't think anyone's even posted them or data mined them before. I wanted to ask Ida about it, but she's busy doing whatever she needs to, so I'll just text her later. Now, when it comes to the assault rifle, and this is when I was referring to you're almost always hitting your enemy, the assault rifle, shouldn't even really be called the assault rifle by itself. It's more like the assault rifle and drone. Yes, drones have penetrated the video game industry outside of first-person shooters. Now, the assault rifle, besides shooting at a distance, also has a laser projectile technique, which it can use to also create a little bit of a slow air dash on the ground and in the air, and it can go in any direction. But what makes this thing stand out, and why I consider it my primary weapon when I use the Phantom, is the fact that it can utilize drone weaponry at the same time, and most of it has a one-time payment, and when it stays out, it doesn't cost you any more meter. For example, just by pressing the shift action, you can send out 3 drones to homing attack any enemy that you're targeting in the game on screen. And they don't care how far away you are. They'll just erase themselves, I believe, after 5 seconds if they don't hit anything. But, like I said earlier, all of your techniques with this class change what they can do. But when it comes to Phantom and Assault Rifle, almost all of them revolve around the drones attacking, which means you have time to do more photon arts and attacks by yourself. The trade-off, unlike heroes, once you change this weapon, they disappear from screen. One of the most notable combos, and again, this is without you ever truly hitting someone directly with your assault rifle. You can press the shift action button, do one technique where you place a drone directly above you in the air and it'll hit and target enemies until it shoots 7 bullets out and they don't miss. You can also pull another drone out, slam it down with your foot so it makes a landmine in the ground with a much bigger radius of effect before it explodes. You can lay out 5 drones in a row and shoot a row of lasers like I said earlier, and they fire themselves at will. And they do piercing damage, so they can even hit enemies behind them, enemies that are behind whichever the one is in front of you. So it's really good for bosses with a lot of breakable or a lot of hittable areas, because it'll clean house, real talk. And there's another one, I'm forgetting which one was it. Oh yeah, then there's one where you can also throw out the bomb like I said earlier, and when you close your hand, it blows up. And again, none of that involves you actually shooting your assault rifle. And while these moves are out, with the exception of the last one I mentioned, you can still do any other photon art that involves that weapon. However, they do not stack. So if you do the same one over and over, it's just going to keep resetting and resetting and resetting. It is a beautiful sight when you can see a mob, your whole crew's fighting a mob, and you lay down a detonator, you set up an air drone, and you throw out lasers from the side, and you rack up damage after damage after damage after damage. Not to mention if you can pull off the detonator mine, which you can fire at any time, you know, but the pink purple aura version is just the most damage you're going to get out of it. So I usually like to wait. And now we go into the final weapon, the rod. Now, they like to call it the scythe, but that is stupid, means absolutely nothing, and there already is actual literal scythe weapons in game. So it just feels weird, especially when you don't buy a new weapon. You just throw on rod and it acts different. So the way the rod works is you have 2 styles of attack, just like with the talisman. You have physical attacks, as in you hit people with the weapon, and you can also unleash magic techniques. However, when you do magic with the Phantom, your character not only can run faster while you're holding the technique, but it can disappear off. You can charge the techniques quicker, and if memory serves, you can actually store 1 magic technique at a time, like with Hero. So you could instant cast something at the end of a physical attack combo if you really want it. Now, when it comes to its regular close-up photon art moves, they're very lackluster. Like, it feels like Sega just said, oh crap, we need to have another weapon to go in this slot. Oh shit. Just throw the rod in there. Like, it feels like an afterthought in comparison and contrast to literally every other weapon's special moves. The rod special moves are pretty much as follows. Make a ball of continuous damage in front of your character, or kick the ball with the shift action to make a ring of damage that follows you, slash in front of you and teleport backwards, throw out an energy wave slash, or do a direct X style slash in front of you. I'm not even joking, that's pretty much it. Like, legit the whole moveset. But it also adds a bit of 360-degree physical damage when you cast a magic attack with that weapon directly in front of you. So for instance, if you're in a big mob and you do something as simple as a fireball attack, which hits one enemy in front of you, you're going to be hitting enemies around you, and it'll have elemental damage if memory serves. I would say quote me on that one, but just to be safe, don't quote me on that one. And realistically, as far as magicians go, they're the only class that actually gains mobility. Most classes lose their speed and mobility when they're charging up a big magic attack. So they're really meant to be able to do big spells continuously at a boss or very, very mobile and agile enemies. If you want to do magic and you want to make sure you can hit things and you're tired of missing the big spells, I recommend having Phantom on. However, as with everything, remember, these classes are not the ones that are inherently meant to just do magic. They're meant to be malleable. But, and this is what makes Phantom also special, unlike Hero, it can be a subclass. Keep in mind though, when Phantom is a subclass, if two classes have the same weapon, it will use the primary class's weapons, not Phantom's weapons. So if you have a Braver and your subclass is Phantom, as I learned yesterday, your katana, when you pull it out, because both classes can use the katana, will only do the Braver class's katana moves. Now, some may see that as a minus, but the thing is that the natural status effect boost, natural stat boosts for a lot of the base damage on Phantom and Hero are inherently higher than the previous classes that have come out before it. Normally, when I have a Braver, I have Gunner or I have Hunter as a subclass to boost up my attack or to boost up my long range distance, because Braver's job is to do katana and bow and arrow damage. So it's got a mix of both. But when I put on Phantom, it did at a minimum 80 more attack boost to my primary class at the time, which was Braver. So if my Hunter gave me like 100 boost, at a minimum, my Braver gave me 180 close range attack boost. And then it gave me 180 or rather 90 or something like that in range attack boost, which is a beautiful sight. Because when you're a Braver, you always have to choose between the two worlds. A lot of people say, well, the katana does more damage. No, the katana does more damage if you go and specialize your skill tree to only do things that are in the katana section. The katana super attack that the Braver has, not to get too off topic, yes, it does a lot of damage, but it's a super attack. The biggest problem with it is that there's not a photon art, a bullet version of that super attack. But I digress. So yeah, that's a very unique feature that only Phantom has. As far as the new upcoming class, Etoile, time will tell if it'll have the same functionality too. Now, as far as cons when it comes to Phantom, magic is not your friend when you're receiving it. Unlike Hero, there is pretty much nothing as far as magic reduction, magic damage reduction, or in the way of technique defense boost in the entire skill tree. I know because I'm literally looking at it in real time while I'm talking to you. Let me go look again real quick. Yep, unlike literally every other class, there is literally nothing in the Phantom's tree that does a direct boost to the basic damages or direct defense to the basic damages. It has a lot of modifiers and they're good, don't get me wrong. But if you plan on playing as a magician, make sure you have very, very good T defense in your armor, because even though everybody and their mom makes themselves a glass cannon by loading up their armors with nothing but attack boosters, you get hit by one good magic boss laser beam thing and you're going to be having a bad day. Can you heal yourself with magic? Of course you can. But it kind of doesn't matter, because you got to ask yourself, now, if you're going to be healing with magic instead of, traditional items, are you going to spend more time healing than you will attacking your enemy? However, I'm not discouraging anybody who utilizes magic. In fact, one of the most common things people have been saying about mixing Force and Phantom and Tekker and Phantom, and Phoenix, feel free to talk about this later, is that Phantom is one of the best natural boosters to anyone who inherently wants to use magic as a subclass, because of its natural abilities to not only reduce how long it takes for you to cast your spells, but also modify their natural damage output. You don't so much become an unstoppable force, but you basically find ways, depending on what magic moves you use, to make those moves come out so fast, it almost looks like your character's not taking a break in between casting them. And it's fun to watch. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a magic user, but it's fun to watch somebody send out 7 really, really strong light blades of light energy, and then do it 5 more times, and then just watch that damage peel off. And at the same time, they stop and charge up a giant energy beam cannon that no one even saw coming because they're still getting hit by a light source. It's a beautiful sight. In fact, if memory serves, some say that Phantom as a subclass mixed with, I believe, Techer is one of the best / most well-rounded classes in the game, because you have access to any elemental magical weakness on the spot for any enemy at any given time. So no matter how weak your weapon may be, if you got good magic stats, you could inherently be doing damage on par with your fellow players. That's crazy to think about. No class can uniquely operate like that. But again, that's also a downside, because you lose access to all of Phantom's unique and special abilities that aren't on the skill tree, or some abilities only work when Phantom is your primary class. Another weakness, the katana. Now, the katana doesn't suck or do slow or weak damage, but the katana has a very, very unique problem in that if you're pressing too many buttons or directional inputs, your character will not be moving on screen how you want them to. For instance, there's about 3 katana moves in particular, and they're powerful, but they make your character move away from your enemy or move back from your enemy in a weird and unique way that can mess with you and how you perceive things, because the camera might rotate in an unusual angle. Obviously, these are beginner issues, not so much new people playing the game, but if you're new to playing Phantom, it'll be a bit of an issue. Also, there's the fact that when you press the shift button, unlike the other classes for the whole game, your character will actually move in that direction that you're holding. So if you want to hit somebody straight ahead, your lock-on's not on, and you hit shift, and you are leaning to the left because you saw an attack coming, your technique's going to come out from that left-hand angle. So when you're a katana user, it's especially more annoying. Also, some of your shift techniques move you away from your enemy naturally. So when you turn the lock-on, your character shows up in unusual positions around the enemy. That is not to say that katana is a terrible weapon to use for the class in any way, shape, or form. In fact, depending on what you naturally started playing the game as, a close range fighter or a long range fighter, you may find an easier time building up your detonation mine with the katana over the assault rifle or the rod. The game doesn't tell you, unfortunately, the exact amount of times you need to hit your enemies or the damage you need to make the stack grow to its maximum height. But even I've noticed, just based on how good you are with each individual weapon, you can naturally produce that bomb faster. And it's pretty cool on a boss too, especially if they're not able to hit you. Let's see, what's another con? Oh yeah. Yeah, Phantom is not really meant to do splash damage. For those who aren't sure what that term means, splash damage is basically when you're doing damage in a 360-degree area around your character, or you're doing damage from a very, very far distance. Now I hear you saying, but Zax, it uses magic. Yes, it does. No shit. All the advanced classes are probably going to use magic indefinitely, even when we get to Phantasy Star Online 3, whenever that comes out. What I'm telling you is that when it comes to utilizing the actual photon arts that are built into the class, they're almost all single target. Almost all of them are single target. Can they hit enemies around you? Yes, but they're not designed to do anything but focus on who you're targeted on. The assault rifle only has 2 moves that inherently hit groups of enemies. The detonation mine, technically it just hits whoever touches the area first. So it's not going to wait for a group of people before it goes off. The laser, and that's only if you shift tilt it to the left or the right, can hit people to the left and right, but also behind it. And also there's the swing around, where you swing your gun around and you shoot it, all the bullets out twice. With the katana, shit, it's even less. I don't know the exact name of it, but there's a move where you're basically slashing and kicking in a 360-degree motion in air, even if you're on ground, and it does damage to anything that's immediately around you at close range. Everything else, primarily single focus. But to be fair, based on his special ability, that's what you want. You want to get that bomb to be able to go off on whatever enemy is pissing you off the most. So to be fair, honest, I would be a little bit annoyed if that shit went everywhere. And, well, besides what Romulus mentioned earlier of the Phantom inherently having an issue with high damage output all at once, over time with continuous damage, much like a class known as the Fighter, even though it's not as strong inherently as other classes who focus on it, even though the stat output is better, because it's always doing natural continuous damage, it can do some very, very good numbers over time that either supersedes or equal the hero. But the question is, do you have the patience for that? You know? Also, this class is not very mobile when it comes to aerial play. With the exception of a homing attack that doesn't follow any logic with your katana, you're almost never going to be in a big enemy's face if it's high off the ground. And if you are, it's going to be an awkward situation where you try to get close to it with homing, then you stop to build up photon art meter, excuse me, by doing normal attacks in air, which don't hit anything, and then doing that technique again. If you want to hit something in the air, hey, bro, put your assault rifle on. Don't bother trying to get up close if it's in the air. Yes, these classes are malleable and they can hit from all distances, but that doesn't mean that they're good at all distances. I will be the first to tell you that Phantom as a class has a very, very unique play style based on the distance of the enemy you're fighting and your preference to close range, short range, long range, close range, or magic. Because most people, they were playing another class before they got to Phantom that they might be used to playing. These classes do not start off unlockable. You have to work for them. Anyways, as far as areas or locations where they're not going to do too well in, any areas where there is not a lot of flat plains, as in like, the forest type areas, maybe volcano, but that's to a lesser extent, or anything that's not, giant open with a lot of debris not in the way, you're going to struggle or get angry with the amount of techniques that go through items and objects in game versus don't. Because everything you're doing begins and ends with some level of projectile for most of the class. But triggering or activating those projectiles or even getting them to hit an enemy is hinged upon homing attacks. And did the enemy go around a corner? Because most techniques you get do not phase through a corner or any form of a building in game. And there's nothing like hitting an enemy with your biggest attack and then watching the continuous damage try to build up, but then a small bridge or a hill got in the way. So all of that went bye-bye. It's a little bit annoying, don't get me wrong. But if you're trying to do long range damage, it's going to get on your nerves naturally. Is there anything I'm missing? Let me go check. Oh yeah, skill tree loadouts. Okay. Well, I may have said with the hero, you honestly almost can't screw up that skill tree. It's almost doubly true when the case of Phantom is involved. So Phantom doesn't really specify a lot of things that go to the assault rifle. So almost everything on that tree involves your natural stats, your photon points, the counter, and the magic. And again, I'm going to go look it up real quick because I got the game on in the background. Stealth, tech charge, phantom time. Yeah, pretty much nothing. The way that they designed it, it seems like most of your buffs are the nebulous kind that relate to the class or the class weapons, like phantom boost attack. That's a damage booster for every single weapon you're going to use with that class. Also, why would you even be using anything else? as you can see, if you've been playing the game for a long time, you notice that when it comes to the skill tree, they don't try to add fancy things so much as simplify and compress what's already there and maybe give you one new ability or reduce the cost level of utilizing an ability that they have in that tree. So when they got the Phantom, they learned a lot of lessons from previous builds. First and foremost, with the exception of your magic techniques, there's almost nothing in this tree that inherently only boosts up the assault rifle and the katana by themselves without, like I said, phantom weapon boost attack thingy. You mess with the more ethereal abilities around Phantom. Things that affect your super meter gauge. Things that affect your detonation mine creation. Your ability to create and cause the status effect gelling, which lowers attack power. Things of that nature. Is there even an HP booster in this skill tree? Let me look. With the exception of your natural photon boost increase, there is no attack defense boosters built into this gauge naturally. It's all percentage based stuff, which, you know, for the continuous damage dealer out there, that's good. However, if you go down the magic tree there, they actually do have a lot of variety for you. So basically, if you're going to use katana and assault rifle, hey, just go get everything in the tree that doesn't involve a rod. If you use a rod, start with the rod stuff first, but you're going to realize very quickly there's not a lot of it. So if you want it, you can get almost 70% of this stuff on the rod tree and have a little bit left over to go into other stat boosting. Or you could go and unlock all of the magic related abilities and then generalize and spread out the love for everything you get. Because, you know, what if you get into that one magic situation where literally all the enemies are way up too close and they're not taking any true knockback from you, and you can't really throw out a photon art with the rod because most rods in game don't really have a lot of striking damage. Like, they know striking damage is secondary, so they're not high on the striking damage scale. So basically, photon skill tree is the equivalent of the Eevee of Phantasy Star Online 2. It will customize itself to what you want, and you'll probably be able to look decent and do a lot of damage because they removed a lot of some of the other fluff that comes with stat modifications, such as HP and attack increases and stuff like that. But that's also what makes it a good secondary subclass. Now, as far as who I feel like this class is meant for, well, for lack of a better term, people who didn't have fun playing Hero because all the weapons on it that they didn't actually like. But that's a bit of a ongoing running joke. The way I look at it, Phantom is meant for people who, besides, you know, wanting to be able to attack their enemies from any range, especially since it's nothing but continuous damage if you got the assault rifle of all things, it really feels like, at least in my opinion, it's meant for people who want to attack from afar and they want to make sure that their enemies have trouble getting in close to them. And if you're using the katana and you're coming in close, you want to be a tank style. It's for those people who don't like how naturally wide the level of damage pool is for the hero, and they want something up close and more personal with a class that's basically attacking a single individual enemy. But also you got a better super ability. Not to mention, which I failed to mention, you can pull it off twice at a time or one back in another. Whereas with Hero, you can only do it once and then have to refill the full meter. Phantom super attack can be done twice if you fill up the full meter. Or like I said, you want to be invulnerable and cause chaos. The choice is there. If you know you're going to deal with a lot of mobs because you play with groups that always go and get hard areas, and you want to be able to attack everything around you, I mean, Phantom's not really all that good for that. However, if you want to do continuous damage, you want to make sure that you can easily or have an easier time getting away from bosses and enemies, especially if there's a big mob. And when it comes to magic, you want that extra kick of being able to cause a physical attack that does destructive damage that explodes. I can honestly say for the mid-range fighter or the mid-range tank, I can recommend you Phantom. However, if you really don't like the idea of Phantom, don't forget you can also use one of your old classes, level up Phantom as a sub, and boost up your natural abilities. Just don't forget to always be modifying your tree once you level up Phantom as a secondary. Because no matter what you are, Phantom, with the exception of a pet summoner, I hate pets. With the exception of the pet summoner, everybody naturally gets a bigger boost than they normally would if they have Phantom as a maxed out subclass. So basically, I'm going to tell you it's the perfect subclass, but as far as primaries go, if you don't like splash damage and you want to keep going at him and you like a tank that can be mid-range and get back and do the damage, come get Phantom, because he'll get in your face and he'll hit you from afar. Alright, Phoenix, what's your feelings on Phantom?
My feelings for Phantom, I haven't really played the class that much, but it is my primary subclass for my Tekka. It's...
Oh, gee, I wonder why.
Well, with Tekka, previously before Phantom, I played... I used to have Fighter as my subclass, which is more for hybrid attack combinations with your wand melee and magic attacks. But for Phantoms, you have a much easier time because with... One moment.
Take your time.
As Phantom, I really like the tech short charge. It is helps with my hybrid.
Hey, you gotta let people know what it does.
With the tech short charge, it cuts the charge time by half if you maxed it, with only like a 30% power reduction. But with tech short charge, it doesn't really have any negative effects towards support techniques like Sandburst and Sundeal, as well as the HP recovery of Rester and the status effect. They all unaffected negatively by tech short charge, but they still get the positive benefits, which makes Tekka, which complements Tekka very well, because this class needs to use support techniques if they want to support their teammates. With tech short charge, most of your techs will complete. If you have the tech parry ring, most of your techniques magics will complete their charge before the just guard frames of tech parry wears off, making it quite safe, much more safer than compared to Tekka Fighter, where the parry is going to wear off before the tech completes. Sorry for mixing up with techniques and magic.
Interesting. And also very devastating to your enemies.
The other skills, as a subclass, even if you've taken all these subclass friendly skills, you still have like over 30 points left, which is probably might be poured into Phantom Weapon Boost if you want to try and level your Phantom beyond level 70, because 70 is the highest level you can get as a third class before you need to level it up as a main class. I usually like to have at least 200 PP. I'm used having about a total about 220 PP.
Hold on a second. Hold on. For you new people out there, PP is not a reference to what R. Kelly shouldn't do to little people. PP is the name of photon points, which is the equivalent of our magic gauge in Phantasy Star Online 2. Okay, continue.
PP's a bit important for Phantom because of the photon stream and the critical stream skills. You need 200 points to max out the effects of photon stream, and while you need 300 points to max out the critical stream, to max out the crit rate, it will have about 5% critical damage before you hit 200 PP. The Phantom PP resource is good. It helps with the longevity of tech combat. And you also get the sweet high PP higher, which gives you 20 PP if you max it out. Forget them. What else I'm trying to add as a useful subclass.
Okay, well, what do you think are some cons to Phantom?
Not sure. As a subclass, it doesn't really hit as hard for melee attacks as Hunter, and doesn't have as much survivability skills as Hunter. Nor does Phantom have the greatest burst damage, such as your compounds. But those advantages that Phantom's has far outweighs those disadvantages, which, like Tekka, the tech short charge is too good of a skill to pass when using it as a subclass compared to the others, because with that, it means you can use your support techniques much more often without and be a bit more safe because you're committing less time to charging your magics.
Okay. And what type of player would you recommend this class to?
I'm not really sure as a subclass, since I know that Hunters uses Phantom as a subclass. I know that Braver uses Phantom as a subclass. I'm not sure about Phantom using it as Phantom as a subclass. It's just, I know that Tekkers, about 90% of Tekkers use Phantom as a subclass. Not sure. I really don't know about who I can recommend this Phantom as a subclass to, but it is quite useful.
Fair enough.
As,
Okay.
discount.
No, it's fine. All right, Romulus, go ahead and bring it home.
Okay.
Romulus, did you die or fall asleep?
Didn't Discord timed out for a second, but I'm here.
Phantom, your turn. Go.
Alright, so Rise as a general, I have enjoyed playing that class because it's like, it's a more tech-savvy class and fun to go around outside of the whole. First off, the invincibility for him, which makes it just completely viable whenever you want to play it, main or sub. The fact that most classes, they're just dodge, but done correctly, you can charge up to deal a homing counter, and then you can use that homing counter on top of the photon mark that you get on there. So then you charge up with your other skills, depending on which weapon you use, whether it's the wand, gun, or sword, which does like stupid amounts of damage if you build that up. On top of that, each different weapon has its own fundamental use. Because my favorite in sequential order would be gun, katana, and then the wand. The gun more so because of how widespread damage I can get with that, with rush in and then blast people to get to the objective faster. Then there's just like the machine gun move where it just drains all your PP, but you do like a shit ton of damage over and over again. The air and land mines that is possible, and then like the strafe technique you can do with it. So it's just like everything about that does amazing abilities tech type wise. However, it does not. I mean, sure, it can do damage, but when you compare it to like the other compounding class like Hero, or even just some of the regular classes, when people just know how to max out their stats, you're just like, oh wow. This ain't the best thing sometimes. Because I still remember that time when I was playing Phantom with you and the other chick, trying to get those super skills, and we had to fight that giant fucking griffin 5 times in a row.
Oh my god, that was annoying.
So stuff like that. So it's like, even with our best classes, it's just like sometimes it wasn't the best damage choice at that time. Personally, I would also like to recommend these people to be rogue and assassin type people because you get perfect mobility and in and out moves. Not as powerful as Hero can be, but you can still do your fast DPS damage. On top of that, as you mentioned before, each different skill, when pressed with the shift function, does different things. And also the teleport function on some of the weapons, like on the katana and wand, are easier to understand because you hit with the sword of whatever combo you do. You gotta hear the sound, then you reactivate it, then you teleport to the target, and then the scythe always teleports you back, so you can easily get out of combat focus. Also, you don't even end up shifting accidentally through your weapons. You can just choose which one you're gonna work with. Also, that one's also fairly hard build because in the skill trees, there's always the one where it's like, oh, you're going to put more in your photon, your magic abilities, where we're going to take away from your DPS. Oh, where you're going to put more DPS, or we're going to take more away from the katana. And then, it's like there's just pros and cons for what you're raising and lowering. So you really just got to keep track of that, too. So people who are really... Also, that class eats up so much photon points. Like, you do 3 skills and you're already out of combat. So you really gotta manage what you're doing and what you're not doing all the time. So people who are really technical in their gameplays and know how to zone and space stuff out, and assassin type players, I would recommend this heavily too.
Yeah, especially because you can literally outmaneuver Hero by running. There's a technique where you actually can run in the middle of your technique. Whoops, cell phone went off. And besides outrunning them, you could use it to also run away from really, really big, dangerous techniques too. It's very, very mobile. You just have to remember it's ground mobility. That was all I wanted to say. All right, Phoenix, you wanted to add something again?
Right, so for a few more about Tech of Phantom, I like to use, for my right rings, I like to use the critical strike rings compared to attack advance, because of the critical rate I feel is a lot more important. As I'm using it, I have like about 90% critical rate, which is quite sizable. I like to load out my wands with the skilled strike S-class abilities.
One day I'm going to have to sit down and look at your rings. Goddamn, I have to try to mimic that.
Shall I continue talking?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm not stopping you. I'm just saying I want to look at your fucking rings one day.
Yeah, I do have about 5 or 6 rings that I'll often switch between, depending on the situation. Another thing that sprint tech charges also makes Tech of Phantom much more safer, as you can move out of danger much more easily compared to the other combinations while you're charging techniques. So it's overall a pretty good subclass, and I don't think I'll ever return to the other subclass. I used to have pure tech attack mag before Phantom, but after a while, I spent 1,000, 10,000 X cubes for a complete conversion from tech attack to dexterity because of how much I want to maximize the potential of Tech Phantom.
Interesting. Was there anything else?
I think that's about it, unless I'm missing something.
No. All right. Well, luckily there's an odd number of us, so two of us will at least have a different opinion. All right. So I'm gonna start with you, Romulus. I'm gonna just say point blank, gun to your head. Between Hero and Phantom, which class do you think naturally is better? Just between the two, not the whole game. Just between the two.
Phantom. That one is the easiest for people, in my opinion, to pick up. Because even though Hero is simple, it's not like something I would see people play. I would just say Phantom is the best also because invulnerability, maneuverability, actual good stuff when you do just dodge, and then the skill tree to empower the rolls you want, whether as, you counter, then you get an on-hit counter that doesn't really stack, and then reload times and just other stuff that doesn't seem, to me, viable in the sense of all what we have to do in that game, because there's a lot of emergency codes of protect, attack, recover, rescue. In a situation like that where you gotta move a lot, Phantom hands down is the best.
Okay. Well, Phoenix, between Hero and Phantom, which one's the best to you?
I really have no idea which one's the best.
How did I see that coming?
Because I haven't really played much of both classes.
Which one do you like more?
I'm thinking Hero because I've actually played Hero a lot more, but I do like Phantom because of the usability as a subclass.
Nope. We're only talking primaries.
Primary. Sorry. I really don't have a good opinion. But Phantoms do have a lot more options.
I mean, you can vote either way, left, right, or neutral. I'm not going to force it on you.
I think I'm going to go for neutral.
Okay, well, I guess that just leaves me. All right, well, I'm a little bit conflicted, but then again, if I wasn't, we wouldn't be here right now. When it comes to Hero, I inherently had better weaponry for it starting out because I love being a gunner. And even though I love being a fighter, I was one of those people who never liked to mix and match the classes at the same time because then you're not really learning. And also, what if the subclass is inferior equipment, which is the case with the game for still to this day. If you have a subclass, you have no guaranteed access to a strong weapon unless you make it the primary. So I would mix gunner with ranger to boost up my, range attack. And then when I play fighter, I would mix it with something like hunter or braver. But in the case, so when I got to hero, that means that I already had a twin machine gun that was powerful-ish and a outdated but still somewhat good at the time old 13 star that was utilized for the sword. So really, I don't have to worry about the talisman. But since I almost never cared about magic in any iteration of Phantasy Star I ever played, I almost didn't care for it. The only reason I even started using it is because people told me that teleport can send you to the top of the screen outside of a lot of enemies' ability to hit you, which is fucking hilarious. But over time, I grew to like talisman, but I still don't put a lot of pride into it. or effort into the weapon of all things. But in the case of Phantom, it's the same situation, but the difference is that I was absolutely out of a fish out of water with most of the weapons. The rod and the assault rifle, I had nothing for. Yeah, there was some random rare drops that I wanted to take an ability off of that I said, okay, I'm going to keep you around. But at the end of the day, I was naturally unprepared and not used to using those weapons. So that means I had to put some effort into getting said weapons, you know? So what ended up happening was I decided that I was going to focus on getting a high-end weapon, at least for one, if not both of those slots. And I ended up getting a high-powered weapon for every slot except the weapon that I was good at, which was the katana. Now, when I first started off with both the classes, though, Hero was inherently easier to use, but it's because even though they say and imply you should switch your weapons up, you don't really have to, or you won't think to, because before this, classes didn't mix and match like this. Mixing weapons with classes, even if they were a sub and a primary, took actual effort, money, and time to pull off to make them actually usable. Most people were doing it just for a stat boost. I'm not gonna lie, I was one of them people too. It used to be extremely hard to mix weapons. But when it got to Phantom, my only issue was I couldn't understand my movements type when I was using the katana because I was so used to Braver, slow and methodical, and then randomly speeds up and slows back down for lots of damage. And it had almost all charge techniques that would be on everybody's Photon Art weapon move list. Then when I got the assault rifle, I actually enjoyed it because it actually had piercing damage. Instead of shooting regular old machine gun type bullets, it felt like it was shooting sniper rifle bullets because the bullets could pierce and hit more than one enemy at a time. That was easy as hell to get into, right? Rod, still don't give a fuck about Rod. I'm actually thinking about converting my 15-star that I have as a Rod into something else because it feels like a waste at this point, and it could be a different weapon entirely. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. So at the end of the day, I think by a slim margin, I have to give it to Phantom just because Phantom was more inherently fun to play. And I had learned my lessons from Hero about not so much usability of an individual weapon, but making sure I diversify my portfolio, so to speak, when it comes to ass whoopery. But also, it has the best maneuverability on ground in game. You have an entire Photon Art that has a built-in running section to it. So that means traversing the areas is way faster and more cost efficient. Not to mention, the detonation bomb is like your own special little super move that doesn't cost any meter to actually do. Whereas with Hero, even though your meter generates over time throughout the course of a match without you even attacking anything, but attacking and dodging helps, you're lucky if you pull that thing off twice in a single stage. Twice. Whereas with Phantom, you get two of them just for filling up the full thing. And even if you don't have it full, you still got the drones and you still got the super bomb, which costs no meter to activate, initiate, or grow. Yes, hero damage is higher, but usability and maneuverability also have to be factored in. Also, obviously, the better reduction in magic cost should you go down that route. However, again, these are just our opinions, and if it makes you other players feel better, still acknowledging that Hero probably has better damage output inherently than Phantom does. But, you know, there's more than one category we've been talking about. So, I'm just going by checking off what's left over. Phantom got a few more pluses than Hero's minuses. Now, with that out the way, all right, let's bullshit about Etoile, the new third class. I'm going to just come off the bat and say, I think that class' primary job is to do high technique damage and have high technique defense. You know, we don't have a lot of information translated or in general about Etoile, but if the first thing I notice is that almost all of its attacks are meant to hit long range. It doesn't care about close range. I haven't figured out its special weapon action yet, but from what it looks like, you got 2 extra swords that follow the character around, and they can create special motion to do special things. All through, you know, the use of magic. What do you all think?
It looks like it's gonna be another compound class, but not with like 3 weapons, maybe like a solid 2. Because it looks like he uses like some of the skills for the dual blades and also a lot of
Dual blades, hammer, but the weapon they use, because you know they like doing this at random, the hammer or wand look like a sword. It's a new weapon that's going to come out, but it's dual blades, hammer, and it's also twin swords. So basically everything except the hammer is utilizing more than one thing at a time. Phoenix, what you think about the new class?
I think the success class is going to mostly focus. It's going to be purely strike attack based successor class. I have seen that it can fire off shockwaves for all of its weapons. I think the one that it's using is going to act like a saber, like how it does in the other older Phantasy Star games, like PSO1.
Yeah, the wand, it was called a wand, which was weird, but its physical attacks were all like swinging a hammer.
Yeah. I'm not sure if the class is going to utilize tech attack for all of its weapons. I'm guessing that tech attack is going to be for the shockwaves of the attacks and certain photon arts.
Yeah, I can see that, definitely. I'm thinking that it's range technique instead of strike technique. Well, everything's been kind of in the middle, but this one feels like legit. It's range and strike. But one of the things I noticed is that the swords that lay around on the back of the character, when they're fighting, I feel like that might be the weapon action. Because first off, we got the twin katana, but these ones aren't made out of energy. They're physical. But here's the thing, though. Those blades were still there and doing weird shit at random when they did certain photon arts, even after they changed weapons from the twin katana. You know, I wish I could go and show it in slow-mo, but next time y'all looking at that trailer, look at the back of both of the characters, the male and the female. By the way, I think they hover. I don't even think they fucking like legit put their feet on the ground, but they are wearing 2 swords pointing backwards and downwards. But then when they do certain moves, they move around. And it was happening even when they weren't utilizing the twin katana. Also, I'm still kind of pissed they made that damn wand look like a sword. I'm like, bitch, everyone thought it was gunblade, double saber, and twin katana for a while. Which, first off, I would have loved to have seen that over this.
Give Gunblade the compound class it deserved.
Basically, like, why not make a gunblade and then its shift action, it becomes a different weapon completely? Or why not separate the gun from the blade? Like, how cool would that be? Like, you now have an entire weapon list that is nothing but 2 different weapons in both hands fighting at once. I really think they're going to screw over Gunblade and just say, nah, it doesn't need to have a secondary class list of super moves. But the potential is right there. You could do it in Phantasy Star Universe. You could, and in Phantasy Star Online, you could have a sword and you could also have a handgun. Or you could have a dagger and you could have a handgun. I miss slicers, but, you know, that's another story. Rest in peace. Fucking love slicer. I think they called it wave sword in Japanese. Okay, well, other than that, I think it'll be a slow class. but not as far as, when it swings. I mean, as far as maneuverability, because this whole floating flying thing, even if it doesn't cost photon points, that doesn't guarantee that it's going to move faster than the natural walking animation. It just means the motherfucker hovers. And if you look at the attacks, a lot of them are stationary, but things come off of the character or the weapon goes around the character and does the extra damage. So I think, yeah, we're looking at a case of all close range damage is splash damage, but the primary or perennial dictum is basically range attack and magic mixed in. Supposedly from Alv, who left earlier, she said there was something translated that stated that this thing's going to have high technical defense. So I'm hoping that means that, we might get some use, or we might get an actual magic attack class that doesn't just use the same magic techniques. I don't got nothing against the magic techniques, but even from the beginning, my first thought when they made this game is, why aren't there any magic techniques that have a physical striking element to them? If you looked up the beta build, not the one that we all got to play, but the actual original like alpha test build of this game, the jump slash for the sword, it had a flamethrower effect coming out of it. Mind you, that footage is old and hard to find. But I digress. In summary, Phantom looks like the better overall class as far as usability. And even though the natural inherent damage output might not be up to hero standards, it can still do some devastating things with very low investment by the player. Not to mention it's got better maneuverability and better photon point reduction courtesy of its super meter that can be utilized twice. Whereas Hero, although more powerful and, some would say the better weapon variety, it underemphasizes its own technicality. So you're winding up with situations where a lot of people just say, oh crap, the sword seems to do the most damage. I'm going to use the sword. Not to mention the skill tree is less focused, but don't get me wrong, it's still a damn good skill tree. Y'all got any closing statements you want to add?
If you don't play Can You Feel the Sunshine when you're playing Etoile, you're not really playing it at all.
That's hilarious.
I find that hilarious too. It got me thinking that would Etoile be a usable subclass?
That's the $1 million question. What if they did it backwards this time and Etoile can be a primary class, but unlike Hero and Phantom, it can have a sub at the same time?
I'm not really sure, since I think Successor class is going to have a theme of being a primary class only, with no need of relying on a subclass.
Yeah, that's true, but also it inherently makes no sense for Hero and Phantom to not have a subclass, but Phantom can be a subclass, but Hero is all alone. Like, what was the point of even doing that? Now, I could understand if it was for the sake of, oh shit, if they have any subclasses with these classes, they're going to be OP. But nah, it just looks like they inherently didn't want you to have access to more of your photon arts than usual. They literally wanted you to only use that second ranked photon art sheet. So, I don't know. It just seems really weird that Phantom can be a subclass, but Hero can't be or have a subclass. And they can't be a subclass to each other. That would have been fucking epic. Especially now we got the 14-star universal weapons that can be used by everybody, which should have happened 5 years ago, Sega. But, hey, the machinations of MMO strategists will always differ from the player.
So I wonder if they're gonna make Hero a usable subclass at any point.
Also a $1 million question.
I think many of the subclass friendly skills of Hero might be to do with Hero Boost.
Interesting.
But that's what I'm speculating right now.
Okay, well, That being said, I hope this guide helps some of you out with understanding some of the inherent differences, because even I've noticed some of the new people don't really understand the difference from hero and phantom. They just literally think, oh, well, it's really just, do you prefer these weapons over these? Now, obviously, that's dramatic simplification on their part, and I feel like they're being hyperbolic, but the fact that they would even pretend to think like that makes me think that, okay, this game's not doing a good enough job inherently explaining the major differences between the two. So, hopefully somebody will use it for something. All right, with that being said, it is what it is, and happy playing. All of us can be found on server 2. Feel free to look us up.